Hello, hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can see you too. You look great.
Oh, okay, good. Thanks. Well, I'm just going to keep my eyes focused here. I'm on
Yeah.
I-35.
And it's recorded too. And I'm gonna show a
Okay.
lot of screens. So if
Okay.
it gets too much, just turn it off and you can watch the recording and drive. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, I don't look that so bad. I will want to go back because I do want to. This is, I was like, oh, dang it. This is the one I really want to perfect a little bit better.
That's okay.
Actually, perfect altogether. So, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how to do it very well. Do it
I,
at all.
oh, well, that's okay. I mean, like I said, it's recorded too. So don't worry. You can go
Okay.
back and revisit anytime you want to.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So,
And your room will likely be ready when you get here, just so you know. So,
so are you in your room?
yeah, I got lucky because
Nice.
thought I was going to have to
Nice.
do this call down in the lobby, but it's not really a private like little lobby. Like a lot of them have
Oh,
little nooks and crannies you can just kind of sneak
yeah.
in, and this one's going to open to everything. So I was like,
Yeah.
I
So,
need. They were luckily my room was ready, so it's all good.
well,
So
good.
good
Nice.
morning, folks. Good morning. Janet, I want to see your pretty face. I miss you. I'm so happy that you're here.
Hey, good
Um,
morning.
good morning. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. I've missed you.
Next week.
Yes. Hopefully you have been enjoying the beach. I hope the weather's been good to you.
It rained a lot. That's okay.
Yeah. That's okay. I mean, I'll still take the beach with the rain than no beach. So I
That's
don't,
it too.
yeah, it's totally okay. So let me throw the link in the chat for you to get the handout. And of course, my Kim's not here to tell me if that link works or not. So I'm going to rely on Claire or Kristen or Janet to tell me, not Brandy because she's driving. All right, good. Thanks, Claire. I was freaking out. I was thinking I wasn't going to get here in time to be able to do the class. So but I'm glad you got the message that it was still working. So we're good to go. All right. Give everybody just a second here to climb on in this room. I'm super excited. Brandy and I are actually attending a conference in Dallas this week. It's the Girls with Grit conference. If you guys are not following them on Facebook, you should follow the Girls with Grit Collective. There are 3 girls from EXP, but everyone in this group comes from all different companies all over the country. And their goal is to empower 100,000 women in real estate. So it is going to be an incredible conference. I'm super excited. And I'm excited to share with you guys what I'm learning while I'm here. But while it doesn't get started till later this afternoon, so today I wanted to continue on with our group coaching calls, and I want to teach you a little bit about RPR because I use RPR just about every single day. And I know that there's a lot of people that know about it, but they don't really know all the bells and whistles that it does. And they also are not familiar with what all you can do with it, and how you can leverage it while you're in the field showing property. And so I want to talk with you about several functions that it does. So I don't pretend to be an expert in RPR, but I do use it every day, and I've been using it for a number of years. So I want to start by saying that Realtor RPR, you all get access to for free with your dues that you pay to the National Association of Realtors. Okay. So this is not anything extra that you have to pay for. It's not any additional monthly cost. You're already paying for access to this. So this is something that was developed by the National Association of Realtors. It is called the Realtor Property Resource. There is a mobile app and there's a desktop like browser. You can get to the RPR through any browser on the internet, but there is a mobile app. And I'm going to recommend to you all that you go into your app store or Google Play or whatever you use and download RPR. I have used it while I've been out showing properties. I'm going to talk to you guys about that in a minute, but some of the data that I can pull up on Realtor RPR through the app while I'm out showing properties has been really helpful to me. And so I would recommend that you download the app and put it on your phone. So that's your task number one. If you don't already have Realtor RPR installed, I would recommend to you that you would download those apps and get started there. So let's talk about what RPR is. So I did give you guys, and Kristen, I'm gonna address your question here in just a minute, because I use RPR to produce my HER reports, which are those home equity reports that I've taught you guys how to send out. If you're new to this group coaching, you may not know about that. You can talk to me about that later. But there's a very specific report that I send out to solicit potential listings. They are unsolicited requests. So this is not the premise of it is not someone who asks you for a home valuation. This is somebody you are sending unsolicited reports to give them an insight as to how much equity they might have in their house. But we use RPR to actually produce the report. So I would definitely recommend that you download it, get on there, and I will address, Kristen, in just a minute what you asked me about it, okay? So first of all, what is RPR? If you click on the link that I've given you in the handout, and I know you can't do that if you're driving or listening separately, but I did give you the student manual, and I am going to reference some page numbers in this student manual, so I will get to that in a minute. But the first thing is what is RPR and where do they get their data? So again, you guys know that like Zillow has Zestimates, Redfin has their own calculator. There's all kinds of like computerized modules out there that will tell you how much your house is worth. And what RPR does is it actually uses data from about 13 different sources to come up with all of the information that is available at your fingertips through the Realtor Property Resource. So those 13 different places could be tax records. It could be scouring foreclosure lists. It could be scouring auctions. It could be scouring, for sale by owners. It could be, and it does use the actual MLSs from around the country to come up with this data as well. And then there's like 7 or 8 other places that they get data from on top of that. And so it tends to be, in my opinion, it tends to be a little bit more accurate than your Zestimates or anything else like that. But I will tell you that RPR does have what's called, an AVM. An AVM is basically an automated valuation model. And that means that it's taking all the data from all the various places and spitting out based on your address or based on the square footage. It's spitting out what it thinks the value of that property is. Now, I'm going to say this very boldly, very wholeheartedly. Real estate is hyper local. Okay. Real estate and evaluation cannot be done by a computer. So I want you to know that like a computer cannot come close to the accuracy in which you can, with your own skills and talents, be able to come up with an idea of how much a home is worth. This AVM or RVM, as RPR likes to call it, is based on whatever data they have available to them, but they've never seen the house. They've never walked through the house. They don't know what kind of upgrades there are. They may not even have accurate data on what the square footage is. We know that because they're using tax record data to compile the information. Unless the house has been listed in MLS, it's going to use incorrect square footage unless that's been corrected in the MLS. So just know that the AVM is a computerized model that gives a valuation of the property without having seen the property, without knowing all the data, but it's grabbing data from 13 different locations and spitting out what it thinks to you the house is worth. So everybody gets that, right? Just like a Zestimate. How accurate it is going to be dependent upon what is different about the house. If the square footage is accurate, if they've had a lot of upgrades, if they've done a lot of work to it, that's going to throw off your valuation model. What I love about RPR is that you actually have control. Okay, if I pull up 5 properties on Zillow and I get 5 Zestimates, I don't have the ability as an agent to actually clarify or add notes or to even slide a scale to talk about whether or not these subject properties, these comparables in the subject properties are actually inferior or superior. And I'm going to show you how Realtor RPR will let you make adjustments to those, unlike any other program that's out there. So when you guys are doing CMAs and you're struggling with, well, how much value do I give to certain features in the home? Realtor RPR already has that figured out for you and calculated for you. So when you say a house is superior to the subject property, it has a monetary value that is attached to a little toggle switch. And you guys will see that in a minute. So you have the ability to kind of calculate monetarily on a sliding scale, is this comparable superior to the subject or is it inferior? And it will give you 2 clicks on either side. So it's just a little bit better or it's just a little bit worse, or you can say it's a lot better or a lot worse. And depending on where you are on that scale, then it's going to adjust the valuation model up or down. Okay. So what is an AVM? Obviously, it's a computer generalized model. Where does the data come from? That was on page 13 in the manual. I'm just going to open that up real quick and run to that page. Sorry, guys, this topic is not super sexy, but it's a super helpful tool. So, I can't entertain you with my brilliance today, but you guys are going to be fine. All right. So what are the AVMs? My page numbers might be off, but, it's basically taking information from various other AVMs that are already out there. So these are all services that will provide with the lenders with kind of a valuation of the house. There's also some consumer side products that have some AVMs already built into them, like your Zestima, your Trulia, things like that. And then it kind of has all kinds of information. This is like a home value explorer. Me and Kim are going like this sideways, so we're trying to read it sideways. But it basically talks about the difference between an AVM and an RVM. RVM is basically Realtor.com's private label AVM. That's what they call it. That's why you'll see a RVM instead of an AVM. If you want to learn more about it, I would guide you to the student manual. Again, this is from 2015, but the content has not changed other than them adding more features and functions. You may be able to find a more updated version of this manual in the help tab, and I'm going to show you that in a minute too. But the bottom line is that the AVM is basically gathering information from all these places. So insurance claims, school districts, defaults and foreclosures, reported sales that were in the MLS, property tax records. So off-sale sales that we see in the tax record that don't show up in the MLS. That's not going to show up in Zillow all the time either, right? The GIS system, which is the mapping system, the census data, it downloads and imports all the data from the census, so it knows the age of the buyers, it knows the age of sellers in certain neighborhoods, it knows the demographics of certain neighborhoods. It also pulls information from the FEMA flood maps. It has the property characteristics that's grabbing from the tax data, the transportation statistics, whether or not something is walkable. You'll see a walkability score sometimes in some of these reports. They'll also tell you whether or not there are bus stations or metro stations or whatever near them. It will pull crime statistics. It pulls climate data. If you're really wanting to dive deep into Middle Tennessee's weather, it will tell you what the weather's like. Points of interest, things that you should check out, environmental data, and then mortgages and liens and MLS data as well. So you can see it's gathering all this information to try to give you a portal that produces some kind of information that can be helpful to you and your business. Does that make sense to everybody? The download manual link asks for permission to access it. So when you guys click on that, what is an AVM? It's asking you for permission, probably because it's my Google Drive. And I have it as anybody with the link, so I don't really know. But let me see here. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's asking for permission because I told it everybody. But I'll post this one too and see if that works for you better. If it doesn't, don't worry, I'll send it to you. But in I just wanted you to see that graphic that they had, where all the data comes from. Okay. I'm going to go back to that manual for just a second, because I want to hit these pages 21, 39, and 44. 21 basically, and my page numbers, I'm talking about the actual page numbers in the book, not the ones at the bottom of my screen. So the big thing is how is it, like, when people say, are these valuation models actually accurate? And the reality is that we can have, like this graphic is showing 6 different models that give a valuation and come up with 6 different numbers. And that's my point for you, is to remind the consumers that the only way to get a true valuation of your property is not through a computerized generated model. It is for me to walk through your home and see your upgrades, to look at it and see the condition of it, to walk through the neighborhood, to understand what your house is actually worth. So the reason I'm telling you this is because you are responsible for communicating to your target client that if you really want to truly know what your house is worth, let me come take a walk through it. Let me come look at it. Because these computerized generated models, they're not based on sometimes factual information. They're based on only the limited data that has ever been entered on it. If you can imagine a house that has one owner that's never sold it, and the tax record had incorrect information, all of the numbers it's going to spit out are probably going to be based on incorrect data. But a house that's been sold 6 or 7 times, it has all those MLS sales to use to update. So it's probably going to be a little bit more accurate on the square footage and maybe some of the features, right? But I want to make sure that you are communicating to your target clients who, that these things are good to get a rough estimate. But if you really truly want to know what your house is worth, I need to come see it, right? Everybody's there with me. This whole book explains like how these people can get away with being so inaccurate. I think this is actually kind of interesting because there's been a lot of lawsuits for inaccurate valuation models. So I would just say, there is a chart that kind of says, and it's kind of cut off, so I'm not even going to bother, but there are a lot of graphics in here that just talks about the sales price as a percentage of the list price, and it shows in the areas of the country. And again, this is from 2015, so I wouldn't go quoting any of these, but it's gathering information from all over the country about the sales and creating graphics like this that then you can use in your marketing. And I'm going to show you a bunch of resources that come along with RPR that's going to be able to show you that. Okay. Let me go quickly to my other page that is 44. So I want to make sure I don't miss. There are a bunch of different reports that you guys can create. I'm going to talk about the different ones that are out there, and show you the different kinds of reports you can create. My biggest advice to you with RPR is once you've downloaded it, I need you to go into your profile and update your profile and make sure it has accurate information. Make sure your headshot's in there. Make sure your company name is in there, or your team name. Make sure that, all of your contact information is in a correct email address, correct phone number, your website, because all your reports are going to produce branded content that has all of that information in it. So if you haven't updated your profile, it's not going to come out looking pretty. Okay. So, I think this page 44 was what I wanted to point out to people. What do sellers most want from real estate agents when they hire an agent? And their number one concern is they want the home marketed. They want you to promote and market the house, period. They want you to price it correctly. But that is actually number 4 on the list. When they surveyed in 2014, and again, it could be a little different today. I think people are more price conscious over anything else. But the National Association of Realtors does a survey of home buyers and sellers every single year. And they ask all kinds of questions about their experience. Did they use the same realtor? How did they find their realtor? What age are they? What industry are they in? What race are they? What religion are they? What made them pick this specific house or specific realtor. And so they're gathering a lot of that data. That report is always available for you to purchase on the NAR website if you're not aware of it. But I think it's actually really helpful information to get inside the minds of the buyers and sellers so that we know how they tick. What are they looking for? What is most important to them? The number 2 thing was they actually wanted you to sell the house. Imagine that. There's people that want you to market it, but not sell it, I guess. I think Janet's got somebody like that. She had a poor seller that just put her through the ringer to market and promote and sell the house, but she didn't actually want to sell her house. So there are some people like that. The third one was to find a buyer. The fourth one to price the home competitively. Number 5 was to advise how to fix up the home. I find that that's something that a lot of potential sellers will do well before they're interested in actually putting their house on the market. What kind of things do I need to do? This is another important tactic in terms of finding sellers, is when you market and promote your business and your services, you should be offering this service right here before you do any renovations on your home, before you replace the tile, before you go and replace the countertops, before you paint the whole house, before you hire so-and-so, this contractor, to renovate something. Please let me walk through the house and give you my experience and my advice about what you actually have to do to put it on the market versus what you should do. This is a service that you as an agent should be providing to your clients to maximize their investment in their property without overspending. Because a lot of sellers don't know that they don't have to do A through Z, they only have to do B, C, and D maybe, which is a deep clean the carpets, maybe replace the carpet, and maybe touch up some paint or paint. But some sellers, I've been to listing appointments where they say, well, we're getting ready to renovate the kitchen. We're about to tear out the bathroom. We're about to put in all new landscaping. We were going to paint the whole house and replace the roof. And I'm like, whoa, wait. And right now, again, we're not in the market in Nashville anyway, where you have to do all of those things to get your house sold. So if you want to create value for your clients, you need to be marketing that you provide this service. Are you thinking about selling your home in the future? Let me come by and take a look at your house, and I will give you advice about what's the most important, how you're going to get the most bang for your buck, and to make sure that you don't improve your house for the neighborhood. That's a big one, because sellers take it among themselves and on themselves to do all kinds of things to their house because they want to, and now they've overspent, and the other houses in the neighborhood, they're never going to get some of those dollars back. So I would rather offer that service on the front end and make sure that people understand you don't have to do all the things. I have a white picket fence list. So I have 2 lists. One is a non-negotiable list. That means I'm not putting my sign in your yard unless you do these things. That means my reputation is at stake. The condition of your home is a reflection of me and the type of listings that I take. And I will not list your house until it meets these criteria. Okay. That's my non-negotiable list. Those things include deep cleaning, removal of junk, getting rid of the dog smell, all the things that are going to impact my sale. But I am not going to put my sign in the yard until you at least do these things. Okay. Then I have what's called a white picket fence list. The white picket fence list is like, if money is not an object and I am trying to help you make the greatest first impression that I can, what is it that we need to do to get this house ready to go on the market? And there are some things on that white picket fence list that the seller's going to say, I don't want to do, or I don't have the money to do. Then it is ultimately my decision about whether or not I help them, I find resources for them, or we decide that's not as important as this other thing is, right? But we're going to work through that white picket fence list together and decide what's going to be the most impactful and how do we make the greatest first impression. Okay. But you should, anytime you go to a listing appointment, have 2 lists. One is a non-negotiable. I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to put my sign in the yard until these things are done, versus your white picket fence list, which is, if I could get everything on my list done, I would be really happy. But if we don't get everything done, let's talk about what's most important. Does that make sense to everybody? It's super helpful. All right. So first of all, you should have downloaded RPR. You should absolutely create and edit your profile. Make sure that everything's in there. I'm going to go over here to RPR real quick. You should all know what it looks like. Your profile can be found up here in the upper right-hand corner. Let me move this guy out of my way. Where your pretty face is, you're going to go up here and go to profile. And that is where you're going to upload your logo, upload your headshot, make sure your email address is correct, make sure your title, if you want realtor to be in there, put that in there. If you want real estate consultant, whatever it is that you want, your office address should be in there, as well as your office phone number, your website, any MLSs that you belong to. If you don't know what this number is here, is there anybody that doesn't know this number that's here? Raise your hand now or forever hold your peace. I won't help you after. If I move on, you're on your own. I can't hear you, Claire, if you're talking to me, but I think she knows where hers is. Okay,
I do.
I got you. Okay, if you don't know, it can be found under the security settings in RealTrax. So that's where you can find that number. This number identifies you in your MLS. If you're outside of Middle Tennessee and you're in other areas, you probably have your own agent ID number through your own MLS. You just need to find out what that is to put it in your profile. You're going to enter your license number, and then you're going to agree to all the updates and then save that. Okay. But you want to make sure that you have all of your profile completely updated. Okay. So that was a big thing. Now let's talk about one of the first, when you get into RPR, your first task is to just run a search. So I want you to think of any property address that I'm going to actually have one in mind. I'm actually going to pull this 105 Pebble because we have a client who's looking to write an offer on this puppy today. So this is going to be my search for today. 105 Pebble Creek Road in Franklin, Tennessee. Now it's going to give you all kinds of updates, and you'll see when you just go in first to the home screen, you have all these tabs at the top. You can click research, you can click marketing, you can click reports, you can click learn if you're trying to learn how to use RPR better. I quickly go in and I just put in a property address if I'm trying to do a quick down and dirty per report, or if I'm trying to do a more in-depth CMA or something like that, or a seller's report or a neighborhood report. I'm always going to start with the address at the top and let it pull this screen for me. Okay. Once I pull this screen, you can see it's going to give you the option. If it's been listed in the MLS, it's genuinely going to have lots of pictures for you to look at. It's going to have the street view. It's going to have the satellite view. It might even have historical views if it has been listed, that property address has been listed multiple times. This is especially important when we have tear down situations, and you can look at historically what used to be there and what's built on the property now. That's really helpful. If you click at the top of property information, again, it's going to give you the beds, the baths, the square footage, the lot size. It has the list price, and then it has the RVM. Remember, the RVM is basically RPR's Zestimate. It is their automated valuation model, but they call it the RVM because it's a realtor valuation model, right? And what we want to do is highlight that this number is more accurate than a Zestimate because it's using 13 data points to come up with that number, not just a random number that Zillow has assigned to it, okay? It also has a confidence score. So this is an important thing, that it will rate the confidence score based on, it has enough data to tell you that this is the RVM is pretty accurate, okay? Which, if I looked at this, I feel like that seller has left some money on the table, right? But having seen the house, I know that's not true because it's being sold as is and it needs a lot of work, right? But this RVM confidence score will help you figure out how accurate does this model think it is, okay? Is it pretty close or no? Right? It also gives you a range, 460 to 498. Now, anytime you give somebody a range, guess where they want to be on the range? They want to be the 499, right? 498. So I'm going to show you how you can edit that later and how you can alter it. But I just want you to know, when you click on property information, it's going to give you the basic fun facts first. You can always click on view details, and it will actually show you on a map where it's located. It will actually show you which properties they used to calculate the RVM. So if you look through and you're like, man, this isn't even in the same neighborhood, I can always remove this from the RVM, and I'll show you where to do it in just a minute. Okay. But if I go through here and I see the properties that they use to create that number, and I know that those numbers, because I'm local, I know my market, and I know that these streets are not in that subdivision, then I can remove them and have a more accurate valuation. Does that make sense to everybody? Look at this. It has off-market properties used to calculate the RVM. This is another tool that most agents use only their MLS to search for properties that have been sold on the MLS, and they're forgetting about all the for sale by owners and off-market sales that exist. That is very important. When you go to a listing appointment, your homeowner should not be telling you what Uncle Joe across the street sold his house for. You should already know that. Uncle Joe sold his house for sale by owner in one day, and he sold it for $519. You should be the one to know that, not your seller telling you, right? And if you're doing your research before you show up for a listing appointment, you would have been prepared and know what Uncle Joe sold his house for. So it does give you off-market values that it's also used, and you can always print that report so that you know exactly where they come up with that number, okay? It does allow you to create a CMA and refine the value. It even will let you create a seller's net sheet that looks different than the one that's in our MLS, right? So you have the ability to do that there as well. The property facts itself, if you know the square footage is not correct, let's say you met with the seller or you talked to the seller on the phone and they told you that the square footage was actually like 2180, you could go in here and put your changes in, and then it will update your valuation. It will update your model and give you updated prices, okay? And you would save that if you updated anything. It gives you some more interior. Again, the more, if it's been listed in MLS, it's going to tell you where it got the information from. And it's going to have more information here. If it's never been listed in the MLS, it's going to have blanks in a bunch of places, but it's going to try to fill in through public records. It's going to try to fill in from the tax records, which we know are so accurate. It'll give you the legal description. It'll tell you the schools. It also will rate those schools. Okay. It gives you the owner's name. It tells you if it's owner occupied. So this is where I was in the mobile app showing a property and I pulled up RPR and it told me that it was not owner occupied. So I knew there was a tenant in place. Do you think having that information helped me write my offer? Yes. It helped me structure my offer differently than if it was owner occupied. Now, again, you want to verify this because it's not always accurate, but I'm just telling you, in the field, I was able to pull it up on the app on my phone and talk to my potential buyer about it and say, just so you know, this is actually currently being used as a rental. This is not owner occupied. Let's talk about how that might affect your offer. And remember, don't have that conversation in the house because there's cameras everywhere. Okay. But the point is, if I use the app while I'm in the field, it tells me a lot of information already that I need, that I don't have to go into the MLS. Okay. It tells you if it's in a flood zone. Are you looking at the tax record and the MLS to get some of this information? This is all in one spot. Okay. It gives me a walkability score out of 5. It tells me the subdivision, the county, gives me even directions, things like that. It'll tell me the listing history. So again, in the MLS, I'm going to have to click on 3 different screens in order to find all this information where it was housed in one place on Realtor RPR. Okay. It gives me the public record if there are any, liens on the property or second mortgages or things like that. It gives me financing activity when it was for sale. Estimated value, you can see over a period from 2006 up till today. So it's been gathering information from 2006 up to today. So you can see kind of what the growth on the period has been. And then there are some additional resources down here. I do work with a lot of investors, so I do use the investment potential for my investors, but you do have to pay. That's not included in your membership. So just know that if you do click on the Valuate, which is a tool within RPR, that's an additional cost to run those reports. I think you get 5 free, and after that you have to pay for them. But I just wanted you to know that's not included. Okay. So let's go back up top. So that's everything that's under the basic property information. If I click on market trends, which is the next tab over, it's going to tell me what type of market we're in. This is especially important right now because do you know how many people have told me in the last week in Middle Tennessee that we're in a buyer's market? Are we in a buyer's market in Middle Tennessee? No freaking way. Remember, in order to be in a buyer's market, you have to have, right now in a seller's market, you have to have less than 6 months inventory to be in a seller's market. We have like 2. It says 2.44, right? If we were at 4 or 5, that's where I would say we were moving towards a balanced market in the middle. If we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months worth of, then we're in a buyer's market. So these clients who are trying to play games with you about, I want a deal, I want a seller to pay all my closing costs, I want to come in and offer 50 grand less, pull up this chart and show them the market trends and say, I want you to see that we have 2.4 months worth of inventory and that is very much a seller's market. You are getting some concessions paid on your behalf. They are reducing some prices, but they're not in a market that you think you're in where you just walk in and strike a deal, right? So be aware of that. I like the market trends for that reason by itself, because I want people to know. It also will give you data, how many properties month over month sold in the Middle Tennessee area. And you can drop down here to just show me single family homes. We'll apply it to all the charts. Just show me single family homes, and it'll show me there were 270 single family homes. 34 was the median days on RPR. It also is going to give me the median price per square foot, right? And the median list price. And this again is not just, I believe that this is taking for all of Middle Tennessee, not just that neighborhood or not just that. So be careful about where you're getting the data from. Make sure you know what you're talking about when you're talking about the data. But it's going to show in Franklin. Oh, that's because it's in Franklin. It's actually showing me Williamson County or Franklin data. But you have all this data available to you again that's in RPR that you can use to your benefit to educate the people in your life, your target clients, about what is actually happening in our market. Does everybody get the market trends tab, like what it does and what it gives you? Let's go to the refined value. So the refined value is basically, it's going to show you, it has what the original like RVM was, 479.3. You can make changes to it. So you can say they put in a fence. You can go ahead in here and say that they did a major kitchen remodel and say that it's upscale. And I can say that they spent $60,000 on that kitchen renovation, right? And I've now added that improvement for 2023, April 2023. And it's just going to put the notes in here that we've done that, right? Did that say? There we go. So now you'll see that it's refined. You're not going to get $60,000, but it's going to give you a credit for some of it that it knows is transferable, that's going to add to the value of the property. If I had a high-end renovation, I love this because this tells you how much you can kind of guesstimate what some of these things are going to be worth to a seller. Is it always accurate? No, but it does at least give you some things to choose from, and then you can add yourself the other prices of other things that are not listed there. I think that tool is very helpful. Do you guys agree that that's pretty helpful? Because you don't know what things are worth, right? So you have the ability to refine it. You actually can, if you know in your hyper local market that your market is super hot, that everything's going multiple offers, blah, 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 then you can toggle this switch and it's going to make adjustments to how it's calculating the RVMs for you based on your market conditions. And it, again, who knows the market conditions better than you? Nobody. You get to be the one that says, no, you know what? We've slowed down quite a bit since last year, so I'm going to toggle this way. Do you see how it changed my value as I changed what was happening with the market? Right? If it's a hot market, I got $52,000. If I toggled it down here, it went down to like 10 or 16. Okay. I think that's really helpful. You also have the ability to toggle about the home's exterior. You know what? They are the yard of the month every month. So I'm going to give them a whole lot of credit for their landscaping. Maybe their lot size though is kind of a corner lot and they don't have much of a backyard, so I can toggle down that way. Do they have a great view? Oh my gosh, they get to see the lake. So you guys see that I can make all kinds of adjustments based on the property underneath this refined value tab. Everybody make sense to everybody? All right, any questions about any of that so far? All right, let's click on CMA. So this particular property, anytime, and this is the step, if you were going to do a HER report, a home equity report, this is the step you're going to come into. I'm going to go back for a second just to show you, because I've been clicking on the tabs along the top, but basically from the home tab, once you put in your address at the top, so I go to 105 Pebble Creek, my CMA is going to be right here on that same tab, okay? But if I'm doing a HER report, I come in, I put the address in right away, and I'm going to click on CMA. It's going to, the first step is always to confirm the facts, okay? I leave it toggled on comparison approach, not a sales approach. The sales approach is more going to be your appraisal basis versus we want to use comparable sales to give us a valuation, right? And y'all better stop yawning because I've been up since 3, okay? Love you, mean it. I'm just teasing. So look here, this first public record said that the square footage was only 1411. This has a basement. So we know that the square footage now in the MLS says is 2078. That makes a big difference in how it calculates that model. If you know that there's actually a 2-car garage, you can go in and put 2 there, but you can make any changes that you know of that are not correct. You will often see in RPR that they don't have the number of bedrooms unless it's been actively listed recently. So you can go ahead and go in and correct that, add your total baths or your half baths or something like that. If you know that there's a partially finished basement, you can always add those kinds of things. Once you've made any of your changes, you're going to click confirm facts and close. The next step, and you'll see the steps are all numbered here to the left. It walks you right through it. The next step is to actually go search for comps. Okay. Now, if you're like me, you love RealTracs, you know RealTracs like the back, or your MLS, I should say, because I forget I got people from everywhere, but your MLS, you love it. You use it every day. You know it like the back of your hand. I often will do my CMAs in my MLS and then take the information from there and come back and put it in RPR to make it pretty. It's a more presentable format. So up here where it says add a known property, I will have already had a list of houses from my MLS that I think are good comps for this house, right? And so I would just add the MLS number or the address there, okay? If I already know of them from somewhere else. Everybody with me there? If not, you can allow RPR to search for you. You're going to select what type of property it is, active, under contract, closed, within the last 3 months. I don't like the defaults that RPR puts. I think they're way too wide. So remember my criteria, if you've heard me teach at all about CMAs, your square footage should always be plus or minus 300 square feet. Your age should always be plus or minus 5 years. That's the tightest that you should get. Remember, you start small and you work your way out and increase the numbers, right? So if my first search, I want to keep it as refined to the same subdivision or the same square footage if I can. And if I can't find any data in the last 3 months that is the same as that, then I will start adjusting my criteria outwards to find other houses. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. You can draw a shape. So if you wanted to find just like in a concentric circle, you can do a custom area. I think under geography, you can say within the same, in this macro neighborhood or in the immediate neighborhood. So macro neighborhoods are going to be like your subdivisions that have 26 phases, right? It all is like Indian Springs or something like that, versus your immediate neighborhood is going to be Indian Springs phase 12. Okay. So just notice the difference between the two of those. Maybe I want to go in the same school district, or remember when I tell you to look by elementary school, you might drop down to K through 5. My zones, remember, same is the smallest first. And then if I move my way out, I'm going to go to the same elementary school. And from there, I'm going to go out to the same zip code. Okay, makes sense? I don't ever mess with the price range unless I know for a fact that it's going to spit out some crazy things like $1 million houses with $300,000 houses. I usually leave that blank. I am going to put in the year built usually because I want it to be similar to the age of the subject property. And then you would just click search. Once you hit search, and I didn't really play with the criteria up here. So again, it's only giving me one comp to look at. But let's say you had 5 down here, you would just click on add to comps list. And now all of a sudden it's given me a range. And it's also, but I only have 1. So the range is 1, 547 based on comparing our subject property to this one particular property. If you don't like that, obviously 1 comp is not enough. I might come back in here and say, show me 1700 to 2600, which is a big range still, but I'm just trying to find some comps to show you. And this is why I love doing my research in my MLS so that I don't have to keep going back and forth. People ask me all the time, excuse me, does it matter if my subject property has 5 bedrooms and all the comps that I'm seeing are only 3 bedrooms? I personally don't care how many bedrooms it has. I look at the total square footage because square foot is a square foot is a square foot. It doesn't matter if it's in a bedroom or a living room or the kitchen. When I price houses, it's based on an average price per square foot. Okay. So if it has 5 bedrooms, but those bedrooms are 10 by 10, that is not as worth more to me than 3 bedrooms where the bedrooms are 12 by 15. Does that make sense to everybody? So when people ask me, does it matter if it's 5 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms? My answer is I don't count bedrooms. I look at the total overall square footage because that's how I'm pricing properties. Okay. You want to look at your criteria, change whatever you need to, hit search, and as it starts to find comps for you, you'll just click on the add to comps list and it will put them over here in the side. Remember when I was telling you that if you don't like the comps that it selected, you can always click this button here that says remove from the comps and it'll take it out. Okay. So if you put one in there that you don't like, you can always remove it. So let's say I'm really super happy with these 2 comps. This is just for demonstration purposes, but let's say I'm happy with these 2 comps. I think they're good comps for the neighborhood. They're both very close to the other one. They're kind of similar in square footage. I think my guy is 2078. This is 1732, this is 2242. So we're kind of in the middle of these 2. So I'm going to click update valuation and close. Okay. Now it's going to take me to step 3 in the process. Step 3 in the process is to make adjustments. I'm going to click on adjust comps. And this is the part where I was telling you, it has your subject property to the left. It has the 2 comparables that you selected. There is a toggle switch here that asks you to rate, you the realtor, rate this one compared to the subject property. So when you click through the photos, here's the other reason why I like doing my research in my MLS first instead of through here, because these pictures are small and I'm old. And I want to be able to look at the detail inside the pictures, and I can do that in my MLS. I cannot do that in RPR. This is as big as they get. Okay. And I can't really see all the details sometimes, but you would essentially scroll through the photos and you would compare the interior photos with the interior of this guy. And you would say, oh my gosh, this is definitely superior to this, right? You all would agree? So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, okay, I think this is way nicer on the inside than my subject property, right? And you're going to do the same thing here. You would go and look through the interior pictures and say, okay, it's in pretty great condition. It seems to be pretty updated. Maybe I don't go as far on this one and maybe I just go a little bit better. It's probably a lot better, but I'm not going all the way off the end. Once you've made these adjustments, remember it's going to make adjustments to your subject property based on these that you're saying it's better or worse, right? And then you have the ability at the bottom here to include some notes. So I would say it has hardwood floors, it has stainless steel appliances, it has a much larger lot, it's newer, has an in-ground pool. Whatever you noticed about the subject properties, I would put notes in here because when you run your reports, it's going to include your notes. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? You're going to click update valuation and close. And now it's going to take you to step 4. Step 4, you're going to review the comp analysis. So that's going to actually let you look at the range that it's given you. And if I don't like the range, guess what? I can click the edit button and I can change this to put a suggested list price. But you guys know I don't teach a suggested list price. I teach you to come up with a range. So you can come up with here and say anywhere from $479 to 5. You know, I like to keep my ranges within 15,000, but maybe this time I just say 479 to 499, just because I feel confident that it needs a lot of work because I've seen it, right? And then I save it, and now it's got the range that I updated it to. And because I didn't put a specific price up there, I only did the range. This is what's going to print on my report. Okay. When I go to click create report, here's one of the things I want you to know about RPR's reports. These are all the different reports that you can run. I want you to look at how many pages this is. Do not run these reports and print them. Okay. If I'm doing a home equity report, like I just showed you, I'm going to use the mini property because it's only about 12 pages. And I can uncheck any pages that I don't want to be included in my report. Okay. I can also tell it which things to put on my cover sheet and which things to take off. Maybe nobody cares about my office fax number or whatever. But be aware of the different kinds of reports you can do. You can do a basic property report, which is going to give you all the detail that it has about that specific address. The seller's report is kind of similar, except for it's going to add a whole bunch more information that's going to include home facts. It's also going to include market activity, charts and comparisons, the comps that you selected, the notes. It's going to break them down into active, pending, and sold. It's a pretty robust report if you were printing a seller's report. Okay. But again, if you don't print 81 pages, pick whichever one makes sense. You could do a property flyer just for that one specific house. Again, your mini property is going to be the shortest one. There's a valuation workbook. If you click on any of these plus signs, it will basically open up and show you what all's included in the report. So you guys can play around with it and see, okay, which report do I think is the most helpful for what I need right now? What do I think my seller wants to know? Market activity. This is really great if you are farming a neighborhood. You actually can pull neighborhood reports, market activity in the neighborhood. The same thing with this one that's specifically only neighborhoods, but this one's 10 pages, this one's 26 pages. The 26 pages is going to have more information about the data of the home sales that have happened in the neighborhood. The neighborhood report's really going to have the walkability scores, the elementary school, the data of who lives in the neighborhood and their average ages and things like that. So I like the market activity better if I'm farming a neighborhood than just a neighborhood report. And then again, on schools, you can customize it and put your client's name on the front. If you know the homeowner, if you know who the potential seller is, you can put that on the front. You also can include a little note, and then you could click run report. When you hit run report, you can either email it directly to your client or just, I usually download it myself and attach it to an email, but you can do it either way. The beautiful thing I love about it is when you're playing around with RPR, when you actually run a report, a doorbell will ring when your report is ready. So when you run a report, you will hear a doorbell that will tell you, I must have kept it on valuation. So let's just do mini property. And again, I can uncheck. I don't really like the AARP livability index, so I kind of take that one off. I also take off the sheet that says about RPR and where they get their data from, unless I have a very fact finder, data-driven client that wants to know where this number came from, then I might leave that on. But you can uncheck anything you don't want in the report, and then just click the run report, and it'll say it's generating in the background. Okay. So let me Claire says my husband asked. I know my dogs go crazy every time the doorbell rings too. I'm going to go back to Kristen's question for a second. So Kristen said that she used RPR to make all of her reports. She sent out 75 of them, but didn't hear back from a single one. Would love to know what a follow-up should have been when you only have home addresses. So great question. A lot of people ask that. Here's my methodology is the her report goes first. After the HER report, I'm going to send some kind of follow-up collateral material that's like the 12. There's my report. See, the doorbell rang. I would send some other piece of collateral material that's like the 12 mistakes sellers make, or the top 10 reasons to use the Music City Experts team. Or maybe I actually go into my MLS, also has some data and statistics reports that I can pull and send them another statistical report about their neighborhood. The thing about sending HER reports is that the HER report gets their attention, but the power is in the follow-up after the HER report. You've got to send more information. You've got to drop off things. You've got to do a pop by. You've got to, continue to cultivate a relationship with somebody. The thing about HER reports is they're typically unsolicited reports. So you could pull an entire street and run a report for them and put it in those people's hands. Not all of them are going to be interested in selling their house. So you have to pick and choose. How do I follow up that makes the most sense without overspending? But in my methodology, it is the HER report that also includes my one sheet in it, the why work with me, and then I'm going to dole out other pieces of collateral material over time. I might even do a postcard later that asks them to sign up for my newsletter or my free magazine subscription or something like that. But your job is basically to, stay in front of their face and continue to market and promote your services to them. So you would just, once you hear the doorbell, you would just click download report, and it's going to give you the big old, this is the mini report that I selected. It's going to show you what that looks like. It's got the picture of the house. It's got me, my logo, and all that contact information. And then it's going to have that refined value, the comp analysis range that I typed in there. Often I will highlight this and put a sticky note that says, and again, if this is an unsolicited report, the only way to know your true home's value is for me to walk through it. It would only take me 5 minutes, but I would love to walk through and give you a 100% more accurate valuation of your property. Those are pretty easy to do. And then it just goes through the rest of the report. Everybody understand or get at least how to run that simple CMA report, right? All right, I'm going to go back to home, and I want to show you a couple other things, because there's a bunch of things in here, and I only just spent some time on creating a CMA kind of by putting in an address in here. So let's talk about this tab right here, because this was a good one. Prospecting for clients. I bet you didn't know that you could prospect for buyers or sellers using Realtor RPR. You may know it, but now you know it. So let's click on buyers for a second. And the beautiful thing is if you just follow the purple footprints, it will tell you what you want to do. So I'm going to start prospecting for buyers by clicking on the research tab. And then it says next, click map search. So I'm just following the instructions. I'm following the prompts. And then it says first, make sure you have residential tag. There is a commercial space for this as well for Realtor RPR. So next thing I'm going to do is enter an area such as a zip code and then click the icon. So I'm going to enter in 37064 because that's my zip code. And the next thing it says, click the filters icon to expand and use the advanced search. So if I click on filters, let's say that I want it to pull, which one would I use for this one? Let's say I want to pull expireds, which is not my favorite things to do, but, hold on. Let's do for lease and let's do closed, because this is one you actually could prospect for buyers using for lease and closed. And let's say I want to see the ones that closed, custom date range. I want to go back to these people moved in last June. Let's say June. They closed on their rental June 30th last year. Why would I pick that date? Anybody know? Because their lease is likely getting ready to come up, right? Everybody with me there? Okay, so first change your selection of public records. That's not going to help me with the rental, so that's not going to help. So that was all for nothing. Let's just do for sale then. Let's do closed and I want to look for who bought their house in January 2017 or later. I actually like to look earlier and not later, but it doesn't let you do that in RPR. I can do that in the tax records. And I do want it to include public records. I am looking at single family homes and townhouses. I don't care about co-ops. I don't want mobile, and I don't want any of this other stuff. Okay. It will let you pick some other criteria if you'd like. I don't really want to look at foreclosure, but you could always just go in here and search for, if you're looking for pre-foreclosure, let's say you're looking for listing opportunities for sellers who are in trouble. There, believe it or not, in Middle Tennessee, there are some sellers who are in trouble, and they're in a pre-foreclosure status. Those are people you may be able to reach out to and say, hey, I might be able to help you save your credit, and we might be able to do a short sale instead of losing your home to foreclosure. Often you still get paid your full commission for that, but that's a way that you could search for those people if you wanted to. There's all kinds of other fields that you could go into, but I'm just going to click the update and search. And of course, it's going to tell me there's too many. It's 5,000. So let me go back under filters and so we bought a house from 2010, January 2010 through 2017. There's just random dates here, but 2010 through 2017. I still have way too many records. I'm going to take off condos. You guys will have to play with it and see what all it does, but I'm just telling you, you can follow these purple footprints and it will walk you through step by step what to do. But it's basically going to produce you a list of properties that, so let's say I do 2010 to 2017. And remember, I'm only looking in 37064. So let me go down. Let's just do 2015. All right, now I'm down to 1993. That's better. For best results, let's use the filters to reduce the total to 500 or less, which we did. Check the absentee owner box. So now it's going to pull any properties in that date range that are absentee owners. Those people clearly are either property managers, or maybe this is a second property for them. The time that they've owned the property, you could say 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. I'm going to pick 5 to 10 because research, just so you know, in 2019 or 2020, the average age the average years that someone owned their home was 6 years. That's what the NAR study said of home buyers and home sellers. So less than 5 years, I don't want that because those people still are living in their house usually, right? Unless there's a relocation or something weird, a life event or something. I want that average, the 5 to 10 year people. Those are the people, if you bought your house 5 to 10 years ago, you might be more likely to sell. Does that make sense? That's why I picked the 5 to 10. Once you're all set, click update and search. And bottom line is you're just going to follow the purple footprints and it's going to tell you what to do. What it's done now is I can click on mailing labels up here and it will actually generate the mailing labels for all the absentee owner properties that I've selected that are in this zip code that bought their house within the last 5 to 10 years. And now I could send a postcard or a letter or whatever it is. Do you know what your true home value is? I could run a neighborhood report. I could run because I only did the zip code, I could do just a market update report. And then it would print the labels for me. Did everybody get that? You with me? Maybe? Are we sleeping? Kristen, thanks for being here. Sorry. All right. So the other thing, let's go back to research. Let's go back to the home tab. Let's go back to prospect for clients and let's click on sellers this time instead of buyers. What time is it? Not even aware. I can't see either. 11:04. Okay, let me wrap up quickly here. So again, you would follow the purple footprints, click on research, click on map search. Make sure you're on residential and a zip code. Let's do 37211. It's searching for public records, same thing, 2015, 2000. I can change the type of property if I'm looking for it. I can also add more filters. There's 500 now, so that's too many. Let me go down here and let's say I want to do absentee owner. So how is an absentee owner different than a owner occupied? An absentee owner would be someone who doesn't rent the house out. It's just that's a second home for them. Okay, like an Airbnb or something like that. So there's 320 properties in that fit that. The same thing, I can come up here and do mailing labels for it. I could also create a report that shows me, you know, if I just wanted to send a report to all of these people, I could actually do a market activity report for each one of them. I could, let me go back here. You know, I could send a postcard, I could send a mail, you know, any kind of mailer to these people. And basically you're going to play with the filters and see who am I looking for? But what I want to show you is this research tab. You can do all kinds of searches here that can kind of help you. So if I did a neighborhood search, for example, let's say I want to look up Cannonwood in Williamson County as a neighborhood search. It's going to pull the neighborhood. There's that market trends that we talked about, how many months of inventory we have. And then it's also got the median estimated property value. And if I just want it to be single family homes, because I know this neighborhood only has single family homes in it, I would drop down and change that. And then it's going to give me all these graphs that I could actually take and print or embed in my newsletter or whatever it is. So if I'm farming a neighborhood, I can actually use the data, come in here and do the research and click on that to get some more information. Or maybe I'm writing a blog and I'm talking about the neighborhood in Cannonwood and I want to list neighborhoods that are similar or close by. Have you also considered these other neighborhoods? And these are some other various price ranges that these neighborhoods exist in. Okay. Under the marketing tab, you actually can follow those to prospect for residential clients. You can create flyers. It gives you RPR marketing tips. The reports you've already seen, there's all different types of reports in here that you can run. Under the Learn tab, there are tons of videos available about RPR that it shows you how to do. You can watch those. There's also under the Learn tab, more ways to learn. I'm going to actually go up here. Couple resources for you that were on my outline. One of them is the blog for RPR because they're constantly posting all kinds of helpful articles about how you can use. So let's say you have an investor client that's looking for multifamily. You know, it's going to actually walk you through how to do that search and what kind of stuff you might need to toggle on and off, how to build an email list. So it's got a bunch of things to help you learn in the blog. And also from the blog website, there's a knowledge base and a learning tab that actually you can go through and watch a whole bunch of other videos and let it teach you how to use the program even better. Okay. This was the learning tab itself. You can tell it like, I only want to see webinars, or it has a bunch of topics that you could choose from. So if you wanted to get, learn more about CMAs in RPR, you can click on that one. It'll take you to the classes that apply to it. Same thing with if I wanted to prospect and I want to spend some more time diving into prospecting, I would click prospecting and it'll find a video for it. So all your topics are up here on the left, and you can go through and then have a heyday educating yourself on Realtor RPR if you'd like. Okay. One of the things that I want you to know about RPR, the other thing is that there are ebooks, and on the NAR website, there's other helpful information about RPR as well. But my big thing for you guys is, number one, I want you to know you have the tool. I want you to understand that you don't pay extra for the tool. It's included in your dues. You have the ability of running very professional looking reports from Realtor RPR. You have the ability of prospecting for clients, whether they're non-owner occupied or they are, off-market sales or expireds or withdrawals or something like that. You also have your MLS, but you have the ability to run them from here as well. The big thing I can tell you about playing with Realtor RPR is really playing with those home improvements and seeing what those are worth, because I think that is giving you an education so that you can talk to sellers about, hey, if you were to renovate your kitchen, that could get you as much as $25,000 or $30,000, depending on the level. If you were to put in hardwood floors, it could be worth this, or a bathroom. How many times have you ever been asked by a seller, hey, how much could I get how much could we increase the price if I were to renovate the bathroom, or if I were to put in tile, or if I was to do, new countertops or something like that? So I love RPR for that, because otherwise we don't have a numerical number that you can attach to certain improvements, and that allows you to. I also like the ability that you can toggle left or right, inferior to superior, when you're comparing properties to your subject property, and then you have a monetary value attached to it. I like the fact that you can take that number that it spits out off your report, so you can give them this big, beautiful report that doesn't even have a computerized value on it. You can take that off the report altogether. I like the fact that you can actually put notes under the comparables that you find on the CMA. You can put that it has hardwood floors, stainless steel, it has an upgraded kitchen, it has an in-ground pool, it has a bigger lot, it's newer, so that when you are going with your seller and you're going through the comps, you have all your notes right in front of you about why this one is is superior to your subject property and why it shouldn't be listed that high, right? It's going to arm you with that tool, and it's all in your report. You have the notes in there. Does that make sense? Okay. Was this helpful a little bit, maybe? Somewhat? I know it's a lot. I know I went fast. I kind of glazed over it for you. Again, I don't promise to be the expert in it, but it is a program I use every single day, every day. So my advice to you, download the app. Thanks, Claire. Download the app, make sure that you have the app installed, make sure you've updated your profile, and then start running reports. Start looking up addresses, start playing with the CMA, start playing with the neighborhood report, start playing with the prospecting tool. Like, use the tools that you have available to you. I tell you guys all the time, you don't have to be an expert in every tool that you have. You have to be an expert at one or two tools that really make you stand out from the rest of the agents that you're competing against. Okay? But play around with it, get to know it, be familiar with it, run reports. If you are using her reports as a strategy to get sellers, then you need to make sure that you can get in there, run the report, and get out. The name of the game is speed, to get as many out the door as possible. The name of the game is not accuracy. Because remember, who is the best person to provide an accurate valuation of their home? You, not the computer. So in your branding and marketing of your business, reiterate to your people, to your target client, to your audience, that if you really want to know what your home is worth, allow me 10 minutes to come by and walk through, and I can tell you in a better way what your house is worth, having seen it. I can see how it shows, right? So make sure you're communicating that to your people. And then also, don't forget to add your service of walking through a property to tell them what they need to do to get their home ready in the future to sell it. Remember, we must insert our value wherever we can. We need to earn our money, our fee. And this is a service that you should be providing well in advance of them calling you to say, I want to sell my house. You want to be involved in that project well before they invest all that money, because you want to properly advise them about whether or not they should do those repairs and how much could they anticipate getting back if they do them. Remember, they're not getting back dollar for dollar. Every dollar they spent, they don't get back. So you want to be on board to give them your white picket fence list and your non-negotiable list, right? So make sure that you're communicating to people that you do provide this service. If you want to know what upgrades you should do to your house to get the most bang, have me come by. Let's sit down and talk about it, and I'll show you, right? You can drop through that whole list and show them the monetary value that it gives each one that they're thinking of doing, if you want it, right? Or you could have it written down on your own. You know, it doesn't matter. You be the expert. But I want you to play around with it. I want you to download it. I want you to use it. And I hope it helps you. Okay. Next week, are we working with investors next week? Right. So be there, be square, 10 a.m., same bat time, same bat channel. That's right, Claire. Same bat time, same bat channel, RECCZoom.com. I'll see you next Monday at 10 o'clock, where we will talk about working with investors, what you need to know, what makes them different, what makes them unique, what kinds of reports you're going to have to be running to work with investors, and some very helpful pro advice to how not to get burned out by taking on investor clients. Okay? So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys Monday. I cannot wait to bring back all the stuff that I am learning at this conference to share with you. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful week ahead. Okay?
Thanks,
All
Laura.
right.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Y'all have a great day.